Thank you for everybody who is here. We really want to thank the organization, Crow Camp, Pero Dujmovic, Kristijan Vidovic, Marino Čačić. We want to thank them for working with us. And for all of those that are new to this camp, I want to tell you that you are presently participating in one of the best camps in Balkans. So one more time, thank you, Pero, and thank you, Crow Camp, for having us here. I have a very special guest here with me. His name is Coach Dan Panaggio. Coach Dan Panaggio had an amazing career. And I don't say that just because he won 2 championships with Lakers and he was an NBA coach. I say that because he started from as an intern and grew to the high school coach and grew to a junior college and grew to NCAA Division I and grew to professional and NBA coach. So he's been a coach at every level. And there's only few coaches that truly appreciate and worship fundamentals like Coach Dan Panaggio. He's presently an owner and director of DME Sports Academy, which is located in Daytona Beach, Florida. And this is one of the best prep sports academies that serve kids, athletes from 14 to 19 years old here who are preparing and who wants to study high school or postgrad and obviously want to prepare for the college. Dan is going to be here with us, Coach Dan, and talk about the experiences, the challenges, the adjustments of international players in USA. Coach Dan, welcome.
Thanks, Momir, and thanks to all of you guys, sitting there at the camp and patiently watching this broadcast. The one thing I want to say to you is I wish I was there, because if I was there and I had a chance to watch each of you play and see your competitive spirit, then when I end up talking to you, I think I can relate a little bit better. But I'm watching from afar here, and I'll try to do the best I can to say some things that might be meaningful to you.
Thank you, Coach. Coach, tell us, I guess the most important question, but also the most general question everybody asks is that what is the biggest difference between USA game and international game, but specifically for young athletes, for athletes 14 to 19 years old, or for college athletes? What would you say the biggest difference is in today's age? Not previously, but maybe in today's age.
Well, the first thing that I'll say is when people think of the U.S., they think of, traditionally that's where basketball has been king. That's where the USA, their teams that they go into the Olympics and they usually win the Olympic gold medal without any problem. Well, that is all changing because the international players are every bit as good and gaining each and every year on the American players. America just had such a great head start in the game of basketball. But if you look at what's happening in the NBA now, or you could look at what's happening in college basketball, international players are making a huge impact on the game. So one might say that there's more, let's call super athletic guys that maybe are the Americans. That's kind of traditionally the way they've been thought of is maybe the more athletic. But the international players, they come with size, they come with great fundamentals and very good skills. And who were the best? If you think about it, who were the best players in the NBA this year? I think if you try to narrow it down to who the top 2, 3, 4 players were in the NBA, a lot of them, several of them were international players.
It seems that the top international players obviously possess supreme skills, while still, while we have American players still advanced with the athleticism, with the speed. Coach, what do you think? Do international players, by your experience, have to work on their defense, and what particularly on what type of defensive segments they need to work in order to have an easier adjustments in USA? And again, I'm targeting more high school athletes and college athletes. what would your advice would be for any international athlete coming to USA, what he needs to pay attention defensively?
Well, you always want to be as strong and as athletic as you can make yourself. And sometimes you do that in the weight room, but a lot of times you do it on the basketball floor. You know, everything defensively starts with competitiveness. You know, if you're allowing your player, your opponent to score easily, well, that's a real knock on your competitive spirit. So you've got to have the feeling that when you get out on the court, that you're going to make it absolutely as difficult as possible for your opponent to score. That's where it begins. The second part of defense is being able to get yourself into a good, solid defensive stance. I don't care if you're guarding the ball or if you're off the ball in helping position, you have to have a good stance. Because without a good stance, you aren't ready to react. You aren't ready to move. All right. And then anticipation. A lot of people say, well, you know, that guy's just a step slow defensively. Sometimes he is a step slow, but sometimes he's not able to anticipate what the next movement of his opponent with the ball or without the ball is going to be. Now, you might be a little bit deficient in guarding somebody, you know, a real quick guy with the ball who can change speeds, change directions very well. That's difficult for any athlete. But there's no reason that you as a player can't be tough fighting through screens, or fighting over screens, can't make yourself, you know, so that you've got great vision, that you see a play as it develops and you get yourself into a help position as rapidly as possible, that you can't train your hands to look for deflection, that you can't take offensive fouls when a guy is charging through the lane. So there's a lot of things that are, regardless of your athleticism, that you're completely in control of defensively.
As I'm listening, Coach, I'm picking up 4 main things, and that is the strength, intensiveness, hustle, and I would just add also communication. And I would recommend to every international athlete to learn the basketball terminology in English, because from the moment they step on the floor in USA, they need to be communicative, they need to understand, but they also need to be able to communicate defensively and offensively. And I know every USA coach really appreciates that.
Momir, I gotta just stop you there. I'm in complete agreement. Momir just made a comment that is more, all the things that I just mentioned, they're for nothing if you don't communicate. Communication is the glue that pulls 5 guys into one unit on the defensive end of the floor. So I absolutely agree with you. And I always say this, Momir, there's never been a good defensive team that did not communicate on the floor. Never been one.
And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of this. I would love for you to share some of your experiences with your teams. But Coach, describe us a typical USA coach. I do believe every culture has a different mentality. Coaches, in essence, share the same values across the world. But how would you describe a typical high school or even college coach? You know, what he thinks about it and what he looks at first impression with international athlete, what he's picking up, good or bad?
You know, I'm not all that excited to say this, but many times what a college coach or a college scout is looking for, he's looking for length, he's looking for athleticism, and sometimes they get too focused on that and not enough on fundamentals, skills, competitiveness, and then also individual character, you know, because remember now, when you go to an NCAA school, you're going to be there in the summertime, you're going to be there all throughout the year, and you're going to be traveling together, you're going to be mixing together, and you got to be somebody that people can that want to be around. And again, this is something that you have complete control over. So, but they're looking for talent. I mean, obviously, they're not dummies. they want to win. And how do you win? You get 5 really good basketball players on the floor. You teach them the fundamentals. You teach them to communicate. You teach them to play together.
Coach, I tend to always tell athletes you cannot control how you are built. Obviously, you can improve your physical development, but you cannot control how high, how tall you are, or how athletic you are to a certain degree. But you can always control how you behave on the court, off the court. And I saw so many examples of college coaches scouting multiple players, dozens of players from one position, and they tend to have their own 3 picks, top 3 picks. Those are finalists, pretty much with the same skills, similar size, and if you grade them, about the same average grade. And what the difference makes is how good student they are. In some cases, that's the difference between who they pick, and in some cases, how do they react to the coach? How do they behave on the bench? Do they cheer for their teammates while they're on the floor? Are they supporting their head coach? Are they looking into the eyes during the timeout? And so on and so on. So these are the things that sometimes make a difference, and that's the behavior on the floor and off the floor. So just some of my experiences, Coach. Coach, as you are the owner and director of DME Sports Academy, and I have to say, congratulations, number 4 pick this year on the NBA draft, Keegan Murray from DME, developed in DME Sports Academy, is going to Sacramento Kings. So amazing job to everybody to DME. And Coach, tell us a typical day at DME for a high school athletes, and how different it is maybe from other schools, or maybe how different it is from Europe.
Well, the interest, it's fun. All right. I mean, if you want me to narrow it down to one thing, our kids have fun, and our kids, when they come to DME Academy and they spend a couple of years here, it's the time of their life, because they're meeting athletes not only from the United States, but they're meeting athletes and students from all over the world. And we've got kids from Asia, we got kids from Europe, we got kids from South America, we got kids from the US. So and you're making friends, and you're learning things about other cultures that you can bring with you the rest of your life. So that's the first thing. But it may start where you report, you wake up from the dormitory, you have your breakfast, and you come over to the classroom, and you're in class for 2 hours, maybe from 8 to 10. And then at 10 o'clock, you come out of the classroom and you've got strength and conditioning. So you're out in the weight room, and our strength and conditioning guys working with you on speed, agility, those kinds of things. You may go from there to the gym, and in the gym, you have a individual skill development session, and that may be, let's say, for an hour. You finish that, well, you know what? It's getting time for lunch. You go back, you take a shower, you report to the cafeteria, and you eat your lunch. After lunch, you're back in the classroom, let's say from 1 to 3. And then at 3 o'clock, it's time for practice, for your team practice. So there you're out on the practice floor for the next 2 hours. By the end of that time, you probably need a half hour after practice there just to go back to your room, take a shower, lay on the bed, and just relax a little bit before dinner. You have your dinner, and then we have a little study time for you so that you can catch up on your studies. And then from there, our gymnasium is open for you to go. The one thing, Momir, I'm sorry I didn't mention this, but this goes to what happens in those evenings. In the evenings, you got all the time in the world after you've had dinner and you've had a little time to rest and do your study hall. You can go over to the gym and you can work on your shooting. And Momir, today's game, you got to be a great shooter, right? Because they like to spread the floor. Teams play with 5 players all out on the perimeter now. Sometimes 4 guys out on the perimeter and 1 diver. But the only way you really spread the floor is you have to have people on the court that are a threat to nail that long 3-point shot. And so this is a chance for you in the evenings to go over and get with a coach and work on the mechanics, not only the physical mechanics, but also the psychological things that go along with being a great shooter.
Thank you, Coach. In today's world, I do believe specifically college recruiting for high school athletes is getting tougher and tougher. And I know this because the college coaches these days are demanding stronger, more physical, more experienced players. How easy or tough truly is to get a scholarship? Can you tell to all of the athletes that not necessarily are in USA at the moment, they're at this camp, they're thinking about going to USA, and their dream is to play college basketball? How tough is to get a scholarship these days?
Well, and Momir, I would even take a step back from that and say, how tough is it to make a college team with or without a scholarship? And, there's Division I, there's Division II, there's Division III, there's NEI. So there's 4 different levels, and then you have your junior college. Most of the kids I don't recommend for to go to junior colleges if they have the academic capabilities. But there's 4 different levels, so there's a lot of scholarship, there's a lot of financial aid out there, and everybody wants it. And it's not just Americans that are fighting for this, these scholarships. There are people from all over the world, so it is very, very difficult. And so you have to have yourself together as a player, yourself together as a person. But it can be done. All right. It can be done. And, I think that's what good academies like the one that I'm speaking to now, the leadership there, gives those players the tools that are necessary to qualify for a scholarship.
Thank you, Coach. Quick question. Your favorite college team that you ever been part of?
That I've ever been part of?
Yes. As a coach.
Well, I liked, I had really enjoyed Indiana when I was in Indiana. And I'll tell you why I enjoyed it, because, just before I got there, they had a longtime superstar coach. His name was Bobby Knight. And nobody has accomplished more in college basketball than Bobby Knight. As a matter of fact, Mike Krzyzewski, the guy who's done so much at Duke, is a former player and disciple of Bobby Knight's. So Bobby Knight got, he was getting a little bit older and maybe getting a little set in his ways, but he got fired from Indiana. And the people of Indiana were really mad because he had won, I think, 3 national championships there. So whoever came into that job was going to have a heck of a challenge in front of him. So guess who came into the job? It was the staff that I served on. Mike Davis was named the head coach, and I was one of his top assistants. So going in there, everybody hated us. Nobody was rooting for us. And we had to fight against all of that adversity and try to be successful. And we were. We didn't start out so well, but we kept fighting, kept working through it. We made the NCAA tournament, and we built a name for ourselves. And I was only there a year. The next year I went to the Portland Trailblazers in the NBA, but I surely enjoyed that 1 year because there was so much intensity and so much adversity that we had to work through.
Coach, I'm going to ask you this, and that is your favorite Kobe Bryant story. Obviously, as you were 4 years with the Lakers, your favorite Kobe Bryant story. It's coming.
Oh, my favorite. There's so many Kobe Bryant stories, and Momir, I've told you this one before, so that you know it. And these guys, I don't want to be too long-winded with this, but Kobe Bryant was a very intelligent guy, and he's a guy that listened very carefully to not only what the person speaking to him was saying, but all of the conversations that were going on around him. And one day there was a young rookie who made a move, and it was called a rear turn. And I thought it was a great move. And I said to the guy at breakfast, the guy's name was Von Wafer. And I said to Von, Von, that's the best rear turn I've ever seen. And about 3 years later, we were in the playoffs against Phoenix, and it was in the 6th game. It was in Phoenix, and Kobe was he was over on the sideline in a tight game near the opposition's bench, and he caught the ball on a pass, made a rear turn, drained the 3, falling into the Phoenix bench. And basically, that was the dagger that won the game for us and clinched that series and sent us into the finals, I believe, against Boston. And so the next morning at breakfast, I said to Kobe, Kobe, that was a great rear turn. And he said, oh, yeah? He says, is it better than one Von Wafer made? So
3 years ago, from 3 years.
3 years prior. So this guy, Kobe, had been sitting at a table 2 or 3 tables away and had heard me speaking to somebody else and never mentioned a word to me. 3 years later, when I complimented it on it, he brought up the Von Wafer thing, because he's the type of guy who would be a little bit jealous if somebody else had done something better than he could do. Amazing
story. Coach, thank you. And Steve, any questions from our guys? Please feel free to ask any questions to the coach, anything that you're interested in.
He wants to ask, what is the favorite moment, your moment with Shaquille O'Neal?
Oh, I coached against Shaquille O'Neal. When I was with the Lakers, Shaquille had already been traded to Miami.
Oh, okay.
So this was the second Lakers with Paul Gasol. If you guys, Derek Fisher, Lamar Odom, Kobe Bryant. This was the second generation of Lakers.
Yeah, I actually coached against Shaquille when I was with the Trailblazers. So we used to have battles with we had Arvydas Sabonis and Rasheed Wallace and Dale Davis and Zach Randolph and Damon Stoudemire and Scottie Pippen and those guys with the Trailblazers. So we were playing against Shaquille in those days.
Any other questions, guys?
And then he has a question. What is the youngest age that can go to the United States?
Well, you can go to the United States for basketball camp. For example, we have Momir started a program here years ago called Summer Prep, and it's grown very nicely. And those kids are, I'd say, 13, 14 years old, Momir, wouldn't you say, that where they start the Summer Prep camp? And that's a good way to start with DME Academy, is through our summer program, which lasts almost a month, about 3 weeks in July. And then if the kids do well and they like what they're doing, then they can always come to the academy. And I would say for the academy, they ought to be a second year in high school, which I believe is
16 years old.
16? Yeah.
15, 16 years old. That's a good time. Obviously, they can come anytime between 14 to 18 years old. But I would say the best time is 15, 16, and in some cases, 17 years old. But the perfect time, if I have to choose 2 ages, is 15 and 16 years old.
How important is our GPA into getting a scholarship or getting into a college?
Great question. Very important for everybody there. If you don't study, if you don't have a good grades, you cannot play. This is a great question. You have to be good to excellent student in order to have the best chance to maximize your chance to get a scholarship. What is good? Well, good is equal to 3 in Croatia. 5 is excellent, 1 is very bad, correct? You cannot average 1 or 2 and think about you can get a scholarship. With a 3, you better be very, very good athlete. With having 4 and 5, and being a very good player, you have the best possible chance to get a scholarship. So your GPA very much matters. Your level of English very much matters.
Thank you, Momir. We have still more questions. Dan, we have a question for you. What is your second favorite player from Lakers, and what is your best moment with him? except the Kobe.
Do I have to say Lakers, or can I say? I'll tell you.
You can pick. Yeah, let's go.
Because I was also with the Phoenix Suns, and I was also with the Portland Trailblazers, and I was very, very fond of Zach Randolph because he came into the NBA the same year that I came into the NBA. He came in as a rookie, and so we developed a very close relationship, and I worked with him a lot on his footwork, which Momir and I haven't had a chance to mention, is very important in basketball and everything that you do, both on the offensive end and on the defensive end. So I'd say Zach Randolph, but also Scottie Pippen. Scottie had a very, very fun personality and also a very hot temper too. But and what a great player he was. So I would say that my two favorite players that I've coached were Scottie and Zach.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, we have one more question.
What was like coaching Kobe Bryant and Paul Gasol in the same team?
They were pretty darn good, and that was just a great team. Paul Gasol was a very, very skillful player, and sometimes people, Paul was obviously he was 7 feet and very thin built, and in the NBA there was a lot of when we played Boston. Oh, I forgot the name of the center now. Big, strong center they had, and I'm getting old, so because sometimes I don't remember. But Pau was getting banged around a lot, but very, very good, very smart, great guy, very humble, and a great, just a real skillful basketball player. I thoroughly enjoyed Pau Gasol.
Thank you, Dan. One more question. Huh? They're waving you, Dan.
So, what was the thing that Kobe Bryant did different from the others and became one of the best of all time?
What made him the best?
Yes.
Here's what I would say. I would say number one was his desire. I mean, obviously, God gave him a great body. God gave him athleticism, and he came from a basketball family. But it was what was on his shoulders, his head, was what differentiated him from everybody else. There's an old saying, for those if you refuse to be beat, you can't be beat. And Kobe absolutely refused to be beat. And he just, everything that it controlled everything about him. The way he prepared, each and every day in practice, the way he prepared in the off season, he took care of his body. He was a true superstar. He was very rarely hurt. And I think that's because he really spent a lot of time in the weight room, spent a lot of time eating the right foods and taking care of, getting the right amount of sleep and just taking care of himself. So truly a superstar. And I'm absolutely, completely saddened by the fact that he's no longer with us.
Thank you, Dan. That's everything for today. I thank you for your time. Momir as well.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Good luck to everybody.
Good luck.
Bye now.